Welcome back to the deep dive. We are basically time traveling today. We're looking at sources all focused on January 2026, and they're painting this picture of a huge inflection point. The big story isn't a new chatbot. It's that AI has, well, it's officially moved out of the browser and into the physical world.
It's the shift everyone's talking about.
Yes.
From generative AI to physical AI. The big show, CES 2026, it wasn't about phones. It was all heavy machinery and this term sovereign infrastructure.
That sounds very heavy. So our mission today is to unpack that. How do you get from a text prompt to an actual embodied system?
And, the weird thing is the sources are all tracking this shift using a single acronym. CDS.
Right. But before we get into the finance and the chemistry of it all, let's nail down physical AI. This isn't just robots doing a dance, is it?
No, not at all. It's much more fundamental. Physical AI is silicon reasoning, a brain that's embedded directly into cars, industrial arms, things like that.
Okay.
But here's the problem. Software hates physics. It's messy, it's unpredictable, you need a bridge.
And that bridge, I'm guessing, is NVIDIA Cosmos.
That's the one. Cosmos is a foundation model, but it's not trained on text from the internet. It's trained on the laws of physics.
Wow.
It lets developers create what's called a digital twin of a factory or a robot and just simulate its behavior millions of times.
So before you spend $1 million on a prototype that just falls over, you can crash the digital one 1 million times for cheap.
Precisely. And the scale of this is just wild. Look at the Siemens and NVIDIA partnership. They're using something called a digital twin composer.
To model what? A single machine.
Entire factories. They're not just simulating the robots. They're simulating the conveyor belts, the weather outside, everything.
The numbers in the sources were staggering.
Right.
And 90% jump in finding problems early. But the one that really got me was the speed.
Oh, yeah.
Simulations running, 10,000 to 100,000 times faster than old physics engines?
And that speed is the only reason this is even happening in 2026. But, this kind of innovation is incredibly expensive.
Which brings us back to the money and to that acronym you mentioned, CDS.
Right, the CDS triangulation.
So in finance, CDS usually means credit default swaps. Let's start there.
Okay, so simply put, they're insurance against a company failing. And in this context, they're the ultimate gut check for the whole tech sector.
How so?
The sources are pointing to restructuring premiums. That's the cost to protect against a company just shuffling its debt. And they're hovering at around 6 to 8%.
Which is high.
It's significant. It tells you there's real risk. It imposes what they call lender discipline. It's a warning light that flashes before the stock market even has time to react.
So C is credit. D takes a sharp turn into the environment. Climate data store. How does weather data fit in here?
It fits because of sovereign AI. This idea that nations don't trust global supply chains anymore. They want their own domestic tech stacks.
And if you're building all this new infrastructure, you need to know if the ground under it is going to flood in 10 years.
Exactly. You need hyper-localized data. Soil moisture, seasonal forecasts. The climate data store helps investors price that physical risk into company reports.
And there's a big upgrade coming in late 2026, the Copernicus C3S.
The CS6, yeah. It's going to be essential for modeling energy demand for these massive new AI grids.
Okay, so we've had finance and we've had data. That brings us to the S. And now we're in a chemistry class. Cadmium sulfide.
This is the literal nuts and bolts, or more like the sensors. It's a breakthrough in material science.
The sources got pretty technical here, talking about size, quantization, and electron volts.
Yeah.
Break that down for us.
It all comes down to creating these incredibly thin films of the material in acidic baths. Doing that widens what's called the band gap to around 4 electron volts.
And in plain English?
In plain English, it creates an incredibly sensitive, high-performance sensor. If the physical AI is the brain, this is the retina. It's how the machines see with extreme precision.
And they need that vision with the hardware that's rolling out, the NVIDIA Vera Rubin chip, the AMD Ryzen AI 400.
It's an absolute arms race. And it's all fueling software-defined vehicles. You've got the Lucid Gravity robotaxi set to deploy late 2026.
Which is basically just a giant sensor suite on wheels.
It is, and it's powered by things like NVIDIA's Alpamayo model, a 10 billion parameter brain designed for chain-of-thought reasoning.
Meaning the car doesn't just react. It actually thinks through a weird scenario.
Exactly. And all that on-device thinking has kicked off a storage supercycle. The cloud providers are just buying up all the capacity on the market.
So we've really moved from just gadgets to what you'd call embodied intelligence. The software finally understands physics.
It does. And I think the biggest takeaway here isn't even the tech itself. It's the sovereign part of it all.
That's the idea that sticks with you, isn't it? If every major nation is suddenly prioritizing its own domestic tech stack, its own data, its own hardware.
What does that do? We might be watching the end of the global internet as we've known it, replaced by a fragmented, sort of bordered digital reality.
A heavy question for 2026. Thanks for diving in with us.